Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
You have with you three classes of 7th and 8th graders,
Okay.
and they are getting ready to do the hour of code this week. So I told them we were going to Skype with you so you could sort of tell us a little bit about what's involved in that job and maybe let them ask some questions and things like that with you.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
exciting.
Can you see them okay?
Yes,
Okay,
I
great.
can.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you then.
Awesome. So I guess I could just start with sharing my story. So I actually just graduated from MIT in June, recent college grad. But I'm going to back up into when I was your age. So back in eighth grade, I actually have always been really passionate about writing. So my dream was actually to become a journalist in high school and actor in college. And so I joined my school's newspaper, and then I took a journalism class in high school. What my dream was to travel the world and write about injustices and kind of make the world a better place in that way. But I hadn't realized that because I had a passion for languages, math is actually another form of a language. And there was a counselor in my junior year of high school who told me, hey, why don't you take this Girls Exploring Engineering class? I've never considered engineering as something I was interested in, but this was like an all-girls class where people were able to do projects together, get involved in robotics and computer science and things like that. So I kind of took the chance and ended up really getting passionate about that. Joined my school's robotics team and was super excited to start playing with like power tools and stuff like that. It's something that I never thought I could do, but I saw Iron Man in high school and I thought it was really cool. So ended up falling in love with engineering, and then I ended up applying to and getting into MIT. And actually at MIT, originally I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. Like I said, that movie Iron Man really had an impression on me. I was like very passionate about building physical structures and stuff like that. But a lot of people say there's a John Lennon quote actually that I really like, and it says, "Life is what happens when you're making other plans." So although I had already planned that I was going to be a mechanical engineer, I actually experienced it and decided that actually this isn't really what I'm that passionate about. I'm more passionate about like working on software. And so I actually switched from mechanical engineering to computer science my sophomore year of high school. And then in college, I actually applied for an internship at Microsoft. I first started out as a software development engineer and test. And so basically what we do is a lot of the stuff that you use in your homes today, in your cars today, like GPS programs or apps on your cell phone, whatever it is, there's somebody called a quality assurance engineer who makes sure that that product is really high quality and it's not going to break when it actually gets into your hands as a consumer. So I was really excited about that internship. Microsoft is an awesome place to work, and I met a lot of some of like my best friends that I have today there. Ended up deciding that I wanted to switch disciplines from quality assurance to program management. So now my job is basically what I love about it is that I get to experience the behind the scenes of how my technology is built and it's used, but I also get to see the impact it has on people. I'm a very like extroverted person, so I think everybody like I tend to think that people can do the best job that they can in life if they follow their passions and what they're really interested in. So I decided that program management was really where my passions were. So that's where I'm working today. I work at Microsoft New England, which is in Cambridge, Mass, right outside of Boston, and so that's what I do today. On the side, in addition to like working at Microsoft, I actually want to run a website called Geek. It's a word that I created with some of my friends in college called it's GIQUE. So it's somebody who's interested in both the arts and the sciences. So if you want to check out the website, we have interviews with people who are artists as well as scientists, people who are pianists as well as neuroscientists, for example, or people who like my best friend who started her own cosmetics company in college because she's really passionate about beauty and makeup, but she used science to create a project. So that was really cool. And now I run events in the Boston area. We, teach all kinds of artsy and sciencey things. So I guess, do you guys have any questions at all about, I know you guys are getting geared up for the hour of code this week, which is really, really exciting. I'm always recommending that people try to, learn coding on their own because it's something that you can always teach yourself if you have access to the internet. And a lot of times, a lot of kids have these, iPhones or Windows phones or, whatever phones that you guys have access to. And everything you run on that piece of hardware is software. So, it's stuff that if you learn how to write code, you can actually build apps and you can build websites and things like that so that, you can share your vision with the world. So I guess, like, what the hour of code can lead to, or, just general questions about engineering and science. Questions about, no questions?
Anybody have any questions? Not yet.
Okay. So I guess, are there any topics that you guys are curious about in terms of technology, or,
What are you curious about topic-wise? Like if you were to have this kind of career, what are some questions you might have about things that you might want to know about?
How many college years does it take to become that job? Like how many years in college should it take?
Did you hear that, Danielle?
I didn't. Can you?
Yes, they're asking how much, like education-wise, what all is involved, how many years of college, what type of education in order to get into this field?
That's a really great question. So I guess if you guys have, can you guys hear me?
We're going in and out just a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing it echo. Okay, I'm going to try to speak slowly. Okay, so basically that's a really good question, because a lot of people in computer science in general can vary in terms of the amount of schooling you go through. So for my experience, I decided to go to college and major, and I got a bachelor's degree in science and computer science. So typically that's a program that takes 4 years to complete, so just like a lot of other bachelor's degrees in college. But the really cool thing that I want to really drive home to you guys today is that have you guys ever heard of these kind of crazy technology companies that have started? You hear about some, girl or guy that lives in their mother's basement and starts coding and then starts a company and hits it big. Those are stories that are, real world applicable. Like I know people that I met during college that dropped out after a year or two because they ended up going and starting their own company, or, getting so passionate about certain technologies that they, wanted to go off and do their own thing. And so what I want to say today is that computer science is something that you can get involved in no matter what, if you major in it in college or if you don't. This is something that is so accessible, as long, like I keep saying, as long as you have access to the internet. There's tons of resources online where you can kind of learn the basics of coding. So what I want to really drive home today was the fact that if you have a vision and that you want that vision to come alive, think of technology as a tool. So say there's a problem in your community that you really want to tackle. These days you can use social media. You see all these different movements that are going around about the ice bucket challenge, or other social media challenges that have made a real impact because people use technology as just a tool to get their messages out. That can span anywhere from there to something like Tumblr, Instagram, social networks that have really allowed people to connect and have really changed the way we communicate. So I'm just trying to drive home the point that, you don't have to think of yourself as necessarily, I want to be a computer scientist or I want to be an engineer, but if you have a message or you have a passion or a vision, think about how technology can connect with that vision and make it a reality. I like to, play this game a lot. I like to ask students, think of 3 things about, your world, something that only your unique perspective has about, 3 ways I want to change the world and make it a better place. And think about, with those 3 problems, how can I use technology and science to kind of solve those problems? So even if it's something as small as, I'm really hungry when I'm on my way home from school, and I wish I could know what's in the fridge, so that, I can get a snack or whatever. Think about a way that you could, use an app or use technology to solve that problem. Or something bigger like world hunger. How could I start a movement, or how could I, connect those in need with those that are willing to give their time and resources. So there's just a lot of different, ways that technology has been used in the past to solve problems and is currently being used. And we're at such an exciting point in time where science and technology is just making such great advancements that there's really no end to the possibilities that are ahead of us. So it's just really an exciting time to get involved in science, technology, engineering, math, because you literally can think of all of the limitless problems that we have in our world, and I can guarantee you that science, technology, engineering, and math are being used to solve those problems. So, so back to the original question of schooling, I just say think of it like this. You can go full speed ahead. major in computer science, great, that could take you 2 to 4 years. But if you maybe are more interested in, communication, or maybe more interested in becoming a teacher, or working on cars, or whatever it is, you can still integrate computer science within that, curriculum, or within those, schoolings, so you can, use technology to your advantage.
Other questions?
Any more questions?
Andrew? What is your salary per year?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
They're interested in like what type of salary might be associated with the position.
So I'm very lucky that, computer science, like I said, is where, our world is completely technology focused these days. So actually, majoring in computer science is like actually one of the highest paid career paths to go into industry right after college. So most of my friends and myself, we make 6 figures as our starting salary right out of college. Other careers can go, somewhere like 70,000 and above, but it's very, it's a very high paying field.
Awesome.
Question. So, you can hear me or not. Is that your primary job? So you're talking about the side thing that you do. Is that combined, or is that something that's additional in addition to what you're getting paid with Microsoft?
Could you hear that?
Okay, so I think the question was, the thing I do on the side, is it defined, or is it something I do in addition?
Is it part of your salary?
When you're talking about salary, are you including your side job? Also?
No, I'm just including my Microsoft job. So that the salary that I get paid is just through Microsoft. But my side job right now, so I'm running a business that I'm hoping to become an educational nonprofit. So right now, everything I do has been out of pocket. Me and my best friend started the company when I was a senior in college. So, since then, we've, gotten a lot of return on our investments through selling tickets to the events that we run and all of that. But what I'm hoping to do is actually create a fund that will, help with an educational nonprofit sort of structure rather than for my own, profit.
Thank you. Any other questions? Uh-huh.
How would you get an internship with Microsoft? My son's looking into one.
Okay, so how would you go about getting an internship with Microsoft?
Okay, so if you actually go to, I think it's Microsoft.com/careers. It's either that or careers.microsoft.com. If you just Google Microsoft Careers, you'll get to the website. You'll see 3 categories of jobs. So you can either apply for a student internship. So that could be, they have high school internships in some areas, so you should definitely check that out. We actually had 2 high school interns last summer when I was, this past summer when I started, so that was really cool. They have college internships, so that's what I did 2 years in college, and those last about 2 to 3 months. But you arrange, you interview through that process, get your resume uploaded onto the website. There's usually 2 interviews that you go through, one on phone and one on site. And then there's finally just career industry hires. So you might be, a professional, out of college that is looking for a new job, and you can apply to all of those open positions there. To talk about what the actual interview consists of, for my test engineer position, the interviews were very much focused on how do you assure the quality of software. So there's things like test cases, which are different, think of it as a test question that your product goes through on almost like an assembly line. How do I make sure this aspect of the product is covered, and how do I make sure this aspect of the product is covered? For my program manager position, I do more design and technical architecting of the product. So I had to think of it from a very high level, my first question was, how would you design a phone for kids? So the thing I started with was, okay, so what group am I targeting? What kind of kids am I targeting? What age group? What do they actually want to accomplish with this? And I had to kind of design the whole phone from start to finish. So that was really cool, just because it's a very, very creative interview process. I was able to come up with crazy ideas and kind of just share, what my vision was.
Okay, I have a question for you. So what types of classes in high school did you take to did you know you were going into this field to prepare you, or what do you recommend?
So I took, in high school, I took pre-calculus, calculus, BC. So I don't know if you guys have AP classes offered. I really recommend taking like AP Calculus if you're on the track to take those classes. If not, just take all of the math classes that you can. Like math is definitely like the number one like subject I would recommend. And then I took physics, chemistry, biology, all of those kinds of classes. If you have physics offered in your school, great. If not, then I would definitely recommend looking into, there's a lot of summer programs offered. One thing I didn't share was that my summer after my junior year of high school, I applied to a program at MIT, which is basically like how I fell in love with MIT. It was like a 8-week summer program for engineering and science. Like I said, I had a great experience meeting people and all of that, as well as I took a robotics class during that summer program where I got to like design a car that basically played a game, and our car actually won the game, which was really exciting. So just doing a lot of hands-on kind of stuff outside of school is really important, I think. And even though people might not think this, I definitely recommend English classes, like making sure you're taking your communications classes seriously, because I think that's one of the biggest deficits with engineers and scientists. There's a stereotype that we can't communicate very well, but especially with this day and age, like everything is sort of hybridizing. Like you have art being combined with science and technology and all of that. So I think it's very important to like learn how to communicate and get your ideas across. Especially like given that as a program manager, I write specifications all day. Like that's basically my job, is to research problems and communicate them clearly in a design. So just being able to, whatever topic you're talking about, whether it's science and engineering or the arts, history, all of that, making sure you can actually clearly write and communicate your thoughts.
Okay, any other questions?
What kind of software would you recommend?
I guess I have a question for your class, which is, what technologies are you guys really excited about right now? Like, what apps do you guys use? What websites do you guys use? Any gadgets that you guys are interested in? Or game consoles, anything like that?
Okay, you want to tell us? What did you guys say?
Instagram and Snapchat.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything.
It's Instagram and Snapchat.
Other thoughts, guys?
Sometimes Facebook.
Twitter, Facebook?
Anything else?
Twitter and sometimes Facebook.
Okay, so Facebook isn't cool anymore, is that?
No, yeah. My own kids tell me that's just for moms to trade recipes now.
Yeah.
We are a 1-to-1 school, so every student has a 13-inch MacBook Air. So they do a lot of their stuff on MacBooks here at school.
Very cool.
I had Vines back here.
Yeah, something that people always think about if you work at Microsoft, they think that, you're not allowed to have an iPhone or a MacBook. I'm actually Skyping you from a MacBook right now, so. But yeah, very, very cool.
I have a question. I don't know if there's a question.
Okay, and we had one question up here. Go ahead.
What kind of software would you recommend for design programs?
What kind of software would you recommend for like design type programs, or what do you like to use for design type programs?
That's a really good question. So I have a couple of answers. Well, my first program that I really, really like, you can actually get online for free with a trial version. It's called Balsamic, and it's like balsamic, like the vinaigrette dressing for your salad, but with a Q at the end. And it is really good for mocking up your ideas. So it's like a drag and drop program where you can kind of like take a window of an internet browser and like drop an image there, drop a text there, just so like if you're trying to communicate a storyboard, which is like, okay, I'm designing a program for a person to accomplish X. How do I show that idea come to life with, like a PowerPoint deck or something? So that's one of my favorites because it's really easy to use. Obviously, Photoshop and InDesign, so the Adobe suite. InDesign, I actually learned how to use both of those programs when I was in journalism in high school. So what's funny is that, they say, it's kind of funny, like I didn't want to be an engineer originally, but a lot of the skills I got from wanting to be a journalist actually carry over to my job now, because I actually design user interfaces, which is what the user sees on the computer, all the buttons, all the text, all that stuff. And what other design programs? This is kind of weird, but like if you guys are interested in like multimedia and like video design, I'm actually really into like making videos and like telling stories through video. So I use Final Cut Pro. That's like one of my favorite programs, and it's only on MacBooks, but Mac OS. But yeah, those those are my favorite design programs.
I just had a question. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I just had a question about, what's something you've done so far that you're really proud of? Something you've worked on in your field.
Did you hear that?
Can you, I kind of heard it. Could you repeat it?
What's something you've done that you've worked on that you're really proud of in your field? Something you've accomplished that you're really proud of?
Yeah. Okay, so this is actually really cool. So my senior year of high school, like I said, in high school, I've always been, my senior year of college, like I said, all of my life, I've always been really passionate about tackling really hard issues in our society and, like, using whatever I'm doing to, like, tackle those hard issues. So I was always interested in, like, talking about a lot of societal issues, especially with, like, just, like, the divide between, like, men and women in society sometimes. And in high school and in college, I actually took a class where we used video games to open conversation up around these hard ideas. And that was one of the coolest projects I ever worked on. That was really, like, gave me a lot of pride because it gave a fun way. Like, we used a really fun mechanism, something like gaming, in order to, like, start people talking about, like, some hard issues that are sometimes really tough to discuss in our society. So for me, like, the game went live and we actually got to collect feedback on, like, what people's experiences were before and after the game. And we actually were making, like, real change. Like, people came into did this questionnaire before they played the game. And after they played the game, they'd say, like, wow, I actually gained a different perspective today. Like, I was able to see the world from a different person's perspective. And that really, like, was powerful for me. And so I think that, like, using technology in art and gaming in a way that's kind of unexpected and really cool, like, that was probably one of the coolest projects I've ever worked on. Yeah.
Neat. Anybody else have a question? Do you have any questions for us? Any more questions for us?
I guess, how are you guys feeling about Hour of Code? Are you guys excited, like, worried, bored?
Anybody want to fill that one? What'd you say? What'd you guys say? They're worried it's going to be hard.
That's definitely something that, so when you think about coding and stuff like that, do you think that it's something that's going to be really, like, difficult to try for the first time? Are there people in the audience that have already, tried coding before?
Anybody ever tried it before?
We talked about it.
We got one.
Okay, you've actually tried it before? We have one that's actually tried it before.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, how was that experience, like, doing it for the first time? Like, were you intimidated beforehand? Was it easy for you?
I'm going to let him come up here and talk to you. You can see,
Okay.
She can see if you sit right there.
Well, I kind of use the Google code design that they have on the Google search engine. Kind of actually pretty easy to use. You just, like, drag a couple boxes over, and then you can, the most recent one I've used is the Google tree maker with lights that actually lights up in Washington, D.C.
Nice.
And that was actually pretty easy to use.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a program or a website that I really recommend if you guys, like, wanted to try coding from a different perspective. So it's called Scratch, and I used to work for the research group that created this program. It basically equates coding into, like, Legos. So, like, each Lego is a building block, right? And so if you think of a piece of code or a piece of logic as a block, you're basically sticking a bunch of blocks together in order to make some sort of logical, circuit. And so this is a way that if you're a visual learner, if you're more, like, if you could identify someone who's, like, more artsy on visual, I, like, strongly recommend, like, trying it out, coding from that, perspective.
You guys are getting ready to use Scratch, aren't you? Yeah, our math teacher, Mrs.
We already started.
They've already started using Scratch. Their math teacher, Mrs. Wheat, this is an algebra class, and they started using Scratch, I think.
That's awesome.
Last week.
I wish I had known about Scratch in like middle school, high school. I only found out about it in college, so that's really awesome.
Natalie, you have a question?
I was just gonna say we use Scratch in my computer class
Okay, good.
That's what we had planned to do.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry.
She was just saying the same thing, that in their class, she's in a careers class, they're using Scratch as well.
Very cool. Yeah, like, I mean, like, do you think that Scratch was helpful for kind of looking at coding in a different way?
Did you hear that? Was it helpful in looking at coding in a different way?
Yeah, it's ish, kind of. It's still a little confusing.
Yes, but it's still a little confusing, she said.
Very understandable.
Anybody else? So I have something I was going to ask you. If you could give these students one piece of advice, what would you give them at this age?
Don't think you're ever too young to start making a difference. I think that's something my whole life I always thought, okay, maybe if I get to college, I can start doing stuff. Maybe if I get, I kept deferring, but like my best advice to you guys is start with where you are, use what you have, and do what you can in anything you do. Remember that like you are a unique human being. Like only you have the perspective that you have, and because you have a unique perspective, you give value into every project that you work on. Especially with technology, because technology impacts everyone in our world, and our world is such a unique place. Like everyone is so different. Like it's really important that the people that work on technologies also reflect the richness and uniqueness of our world. So I just think that like always value what you bring to the table, and make sure you remember that like it doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter if you're new to coding or new to a different field. Like know that you can make a difference. So.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So have you met Bill Gates?
That's something that I one day hope to accomplish. Actually, a lot of Microsoft employees tell stories about where they have like parties sometimes at Bill Gates' house, like for people that are higher up in the company. So I do know certain people, like some of my coworkers, that have been to his house and like gone to a holiday party there, but I've heard it there. So.
I think we decided we're going to come to Boston and take a field trip. How about that?
Awesome. Let's come to the Microsoft Center, play some video games.
Anybody else have anything? Okay, I don't guess we have anything else unless you have something.
Not really. I mean, if you guys have any random questions, like, don't, you can feel free to ask, but.
I'm just excited to hear. I'm excited that you were able to share with us today. I think the information you shared for us as teachers, there are things that we feel are important, but maybe our students don't see how it actually turns out in a world outside of education. So I really liked what you said about math and English skills and how important they are into your future. And I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Well, thank you guys.
And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this for us. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.